Good morning and welcome to the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 30th. We do begin each of our meetings with an invocation, and this morning we have Bernadette Wilkie from Radiant Church. We invite you to stand and join us if you'd like.
Good morning. Let's pray. Mighty God, as we meet today, we are mindful of your great love and compassion for all your children. We want to thank you and acknowledge that you are the source of all wisdom and knowledge. This morning, we lift up our government leaders to you, all of our city, state, and county leaders. Please give them wisdom, integrity, and a heart for justice. Help them to lead with compassion and humility, always seeking the best for all our citizens. We include in our prayers teachers, law enforcement, healthcare workers, and emergency responders. We ask that you protect them all from harm. Protect them from anyone wishing to harm with malicious or evil motivations. Protect them also from temptations of corruption, selfish ambition, and controlling power. We pray that you guide them all in making decisions that honor you and that respect all lives here in our county. Refresh them, we pray, as they lead and serve. Renew their passion and calling that drew them into serving your people from the beginning. Lead them into all righteous actions as they execute their duties. We pray your blessing on all our El Paso County citizens. Bless their businesses and their vocations. Surround our schools with your angels to protect and guide our students. Bring prosperity to our hardworking citizens. Provide for the needy and cause your spirit of unity to be poured out over our state. We pray for this unity and cooperation with hope and vision for the future of our city, state, and county. May your unfailing love rest on us, O Lord, even as we put our hope in you. Bless us, we pray, in your most holy name. Amen.
And Commissioner Nelson, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is staff emergency items, and I'm unaware of any staff emergency items today.
Item 4.
Item number 4 is changes, postponements, and notice of the next meeting. I'm unaware of any changes or postponements to today's agenda, and the next meeting will be Tuesday, October 7th at 9:00 a.m.
Item 5.
Item number 5 is the consent calendar, including items 5A through 5C4.
Okay, is there anyone here who wishes to speak on an item on the consent calendar? I'll just ask for some adjustment to audio. There's some indication that the audience is having a hard time hearing. But if there's anyone here who wants to speak on the consent calendar, come forward at this time. And I see no one coming forward, and I'll check to see if we have anyone online for the consent calendar. We do not, so I'll bring it up here for any comments or motion from commissioners.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Wysong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Applegate.
Aye.
Chair Williams.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That passes 5-0. Item 6.
Item number 6 is comments by elected officials and commissioner liaison reports. 6A, public safety sales tax presentation. Joseph Roybal, Sheriff.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Before we get started, I have copies of the 2024 annual report for my office. I'll ask members of my staff to approach the bench if that's fine. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Each year, we give a presentation to the COG highlighting the expenditures of the public safety tax. This year, we elected to also give a more detailed presentation to you all to give you assurance that it is being spent properly, what we're doing with that money, and to the community as a whole, so they're aware of the spending. You see on the first slide, the purpose. It's dedicated exclusively to meeting the public safety needs of El Paso County. That's what the voters voted for and demanded. Supports law enforcement operations, jail management, emergency response efforts, including wildland fire. That one's for you, Commissioner Wysong. My statutory obligations, as mandated by the state, I won't go over those, but you can see one of those is a fire warden. Yes, I am the fire warden for El Paso County. We have a great relationship with the fire districts here in El Paso County and a great relationship with the state. I have increased the footprint of the state fire team here at Emergency Services, where now they have 11 full-time firefighters stationed here in El Paso County. That is a great resource for the community, and that was no cost to the taxpayers of El Paso County. So we increased our partnership with the state, provided more resources, and it was all at no cost. I'm very, very, very proud of that. One thing I'm going to highlight in this report, sheriff to execute writs and transport prisoners. We have seen an increase in cost of extraditions. Last year, you all gave me an additional $500,000 to execute those writs. That is people who are attempting to evade justice by fleeing our region, fleeing the state. And once they are contacted and arrested in other states, it is my obligation to go and bring them back so they can face prosecution before the courts and the DA. And I would like to point out to the commissioners, which you all are aware, but the community as a whole, it makes no difference the jurisdiction of those prisoners if it's a Colorado Springs police arrest, if it's a Manitou Springs, Monument Springs, Fountain. It is still my obligation to go get them because it is in El Paso. Those areas are in El Paso County. So last year we spent nearly $40,000. You see that bottom line, $39,924,700. $40 million. That is specifically public safety tax funding. That funding covers the salary, benefits, and taxes for 197 of my employees, both sworn and professional staff. Some of the equipment, body-worn cameras, radios, fuel site upgrade at the jail, ammunition, communication center upgrades, specialized laptops for deputies, vehicles with, of course, specialized equipment. I'm going to pause right there. These are just the high ticket items, the highlights of the equipment that is required for my deputies to keep the community safe and for them to maintain their safety while performing their duties. Vehicles, as you all know, if you've purchased a vehicle here lately, it is ridiculous. When I was a commander several years ago, I could buy vehicles and upfit them for $500,000 for the entire office. 30 vehicles. Now, 20 vehicles cost us $1 million a year to purchase and upfit 20 vehicles. Is around $100,000 for vehicles. One of the changes I made moving from the Chrysler, the low profile, which we found ourselves performing a lot of unnecessary repairs because they were bottoming out, they were getting stuck in the terrain, in the heavy snowfalls that we see every now and again. Whether it's out in the plains or up in the mountains, those vehicles were not providing the best service to the community. So we upgraded to SUVs, which have helped tremendously. And now we're transitioning some of our fleet to Ford F-150 pickups, which absolutely provide service to the community and allow us to carry more equipment, especially for my tactical teams. But it really doesn't matter which vehicle we select. The trucks are about $4,000 more than the SUVs. So not a significant increase in cost, but more capabilities for that money. Law enforcement needs. I'll go over each category that the PST provides funding for. So law enforcement needs, in that bureau, just over $11.5 million for the personnel, equipment and supplies, $5 million, training, nearly $1 million, employee and mission support. What this is, this is I'll say it, non-exciting stuff. We have to have pens, we have to have papers, we have to have forms, ticket forms, stuff like that. Clothing, equipment, all that kind of stuff that keeps our deputies and professional staff up and running. We added a fencing for evidence slot, nearly $275,000. We had some break-ins in one of our evidence facilities on East Las Vegas, so we had to increase the security there. We're still working on that, but that is to keep the integrity of the evidence for trial. So that was money that we absolutely had to spend. And the initial communications center update, that was updates to the facility itself. This was a great opportunity for us to partner with E911 Authority. We're going to have a separate presentation where we will invite all of you to come and visit the updated E911 center and our dispatch center across the street. It is phenomenal. It is state of the art. And that was minimal cost to the taxpayers of El Paso County. But that's a different presentation where you go and get to see what we've done with some great partnerships throughout the community. Ammunition. Well, no, we didn't shoot over $300,000 worth of ammunition in our duties, but we have to practice, right? We have to train, we have to practice to maintain our proficiency in that particular skill set, which we rarely use, fortunately. Technology. Technology is similar to vehicles. Not only the technology in the vehicles is increasing, but everywhere. Body-worn cameras, evidence storage. Everything's moving to the cloud now. So we're having to update and upgrade our storage capabilities. And of course, that comes at a cost. We are fortunate where we have the support of the community and the public safety tax, where smaller agencies aren't as lucky. So we're helping them as well. We're not forgetting our smaller agencies because they do serve the citizens of El Paso County right beside us. Vehicles and equipment, I kind of covered that. That was $700,000 specifically for law enforcement. Fuel for the entire office, over $600,000 for fuel. El Paso County is a large county, and those calls for service go from border to border, whether it's north to south or east to west. A lot of area to cover. We're getting to the point now where we have deputies who can patrol those areas. However, most of it is call to call. We're not wasting fuel just driving around looking for something. It is call to call. On the slower shifts, such as midnights, we're able to do more proactive police work, but we're concentrating on the high crime areas. We're not just driving around wasting fuel. Criminal justice needs. This is specific to the jail. I mentioned extraditions early on. So 192 completed at the cost of almost $640,000. I explain what that is. I am not going to allow criminals to evade justice. Our victims deserve justice. So that's really important to me. We work hand in hand with the district attorney to identify those people who need to come back. We actually saved some money over the previous year. When COVID happened, it really impacted our line of work, and specifically extraditions. There were companies there who went under, They wouldn't transport. Can you imagine in 2020, especially mid, late summer, fall, nobody wanted to drive a van with 10 prisoners in there, and what if somebody had COVID? We all know, I'm not going to rehash that, but what it forced us to do is move from contractors, which are more economical, to send my staff for those extraditions. What we were trying to do is we would adjust shift schedules to reduce the amount of overtime, but when you're paying 2 deputies to go and fly, stay in a hotel room, pick up the prisoner, fly back, or drive, some of it was driving, that can be expensive. What we did late last year and this year, companies are back up and running. And so we went out to the public, RFP, and we have contracts with 3 extradition companies. So we're actually saving money. I'm very confident in saying if we did not have that, we would absolutely be approaching $1 million for extraditions this year. That's how many people we're bringing back to our county to ensure justice is served. Pretrial services. Of course, this helps keep our jail population down for those minimal risk people. The county is responsible for pretrial services. They do risk assessments, give the courts to who's appropriate for a PR bond. That's not done by my office, but we do contribute to that because that's part of the criminal justice system and the needs for our community. Cost to outfit a new deputy. Let's talk about that. $8,500 for new equipment. The belts, the leather, the guns, the tasers, radios, all of that equipment specialized. And then you add tactical onto it and like doubles the price. Not sure how that works, but it does. We've been averaging 80 new hires. And I'll go on the record and saying we have been overhired in the deputy sheriff position all year. You're not going to find that anywhere. You're not going to find that in any police department. You're not going to find that in any sheriff's department or sheriff's office. We are unique here in El Paso County. We solved that issue. How do I balance that? If I'm overhired in deputy positions, I use the funding from professional staff positions where we are not fully staffed. So I look at my overall staffing number to ensure I don't go above that. I don't go above my budget. I can overhire because it takes some while to fill those positions and trade them. A 5-month academy. So for 5 months, those deputies who are, well, they're not deputies yet, they're recruits, but they're eating deputy salary. Not salary money, not celery with ranch and hot wings, which are delicious. They're eating the deputy salary, but they have to be trained, right? They have to be properly trained. And if I wait to hire those people and I continually go under, that impacts the service to the community. That lowers the number of deputies on the streets. That lowers the number of deputies who are walking the wards in the jail. So I am very proactive and will maintain that overhire status to ensure the quality of service and the numbers of deputies serving the community does not dwindle. We don't go too far back in history where the office did not hire deputy position for 1 year. And that was disaster. It took 6 years to even come close to being fully staffed. And when I took office, we were still 44 deputies down in 23. I will not let that happen while I'm responsible for the office and responsible for the safety of this community. So I will maintain that overhire. I'm not overspent in my budget. I am spending it wisely. But $8,500 a year to outfit a deputy. Very proud of that. Wildland fire, emergency response. Something I changed, we used to have a commander sit in the position of deputy fire warden. I now hired an emergency manager to fill the role as deputy fire warden and to help me take care of my responsibilities as fire warden for El Paso County. Liz Floro, she does a great job. I recognized over the last 3 sheriffs, we have been so focused on wildland fire that we expose ourselves in other potential risks. Floods, mudslides, tornadoes out east, demonstrations which potentially can turn into riots. So what I've done is I converted that position to an emergency manager specific to the sheriff's office. What that person does is work directly with OEM, with the region. They will still manage the emergencies, but now my emergency manager can help deploy resources here from the sheriff's office. Because as a region, the sheriff's office will be the resources for emergency response in any of those, whether it's patrol, evacuations, suppressing wildland fires. It is my office that's going to provide most of that response. So I need an emergency manager to help deploy those and organize those resources to make the community safer. And it is going to work. We are fully staffed, almost fully staffed in wildland fire. When I took office, we had 3 wildland firefighter volunteers, 3. We now have 22. We are fully staffed. We have a new supervisor. His name is Luke. We stole him from Douglas County. He's a wildland fire guy, does great work. So now I have a leader in wildland fire. I have my volunteer staff strong, the numbers are up. And I'm about to hire my 4th full-time wildland fire. So we'll be fully staffed there as well. So the sheriff's office is really poised to handle any emergency here in El Paso County. Thanks to public safety tax dollars and the efforts by my recruiter, my background unit, and by Miss Liz Floro, who managed all that while we were recruiting and hiring a supervisor. You can see the substation there. I'm so excited. We will open this. We'll have a ribbon cutting about this time next year, about a year from now. This is the first substation in El Paso County history, fully functioning. We've had substations in the past, but they were just buildings. We have an east sub, if you will, on acres, but really it's a room with some trash cans and some cubicles so deputies can go and type reports. That does not serve the need of the citizens. Right now, my patrol deputies have briefing right across the street in downtown Colorado Springs. But what's our patrol areas? They're unincorporated El Paso County. So we raised a bond issue. We got $16 million investors to help fund this. Here's the important part. 35% population growth in that area. Calls for service increasing. I happen to live maybe near there. I know it takes 35 to 40 minutes to drive from that area to downtown Colorado Springs. So that is time wasted, I said wasted, by my deputies to drive out to that particular district. That's time we can be serving the community. So when I asked for this, I absolutely recognize the need and demonstrate its need. And thank you all for agreeing to send that out to public, and the public agreed with this. This is going to provide a lot more service, especially to the north and eastern regions of El Paso County. When my deputies have briefing, they are already in district, in unincorporated eastern El Paso County. Now, let's talk about what this will bring for patrol. My deputies contact somebody out east, up north, and they do an interview, or the person has a warrant, and they make an arrest. Here's what happens. They drive them to the jail, which we already talked about, like 35 minutes. In the booking area, it takes sometimes about an hour to get clearances, especially if it's a Friday evening. Then 35 minutes back. So that's 2 hours of time for one arrest. This substation now will reduce that by an hour and a half. Here's what it will look like. I was a deputy in court and transport, and I wrote the SOP, we call it Falcon Stetson runs. And we use the CSPD Falcon substation and CSPD Stetson Hill substation. And CSPD and the sheriff's office would drop off prisoners at the substations. Then personnel from intake and release or court and transport would go and pick them up. That would free up patrol to get back and patrol and respond to calls for service. That is exactly what we're going to do. Since I have that knowledge, I have that history, I wrote the SOP, I know what that looks like. I made those first initial runs to make sure it would work. I'm bringing that back. Initially, I'm bringing it back specifically for the sheriff's office. We are going to make sure the citizens of unincorporated and that substation are served, and then we'll look to expand it. But now, instead of 2 hours, my deputies make an arrest, make a contact, the person has a warrant, they go to the substation, fully operational substation with a sally port, holding cells, interview rooms, evidence lockers, and storage. Fully functional police station. They drop off the prisoner there, they get back out to district, and they start patrolling again and make contacts with citizens and respond to calls for service. While the prisoner's there, they are cared for by staff that are on site. Then my intake and release personnel or my court and transport personnel who are already on the road transporting prisoners across the state of Colorado will stop by the substation and transport them to jail. Bring up our patrol. So now I've combined 2 bureaus to really providing public safety in the community at a cost savings of about, I would say 75% in time savings. That is probably at least 2 to 3 more contacts or calls for service that my deputies can respond to. That's what the substation means. This highlights what we're doing with the public safety dollars to ensure that we are following what the voters approved and to ensure that they're getting the service that they deserve and they demand. I've gone over the highlights of all this, nearly $40 million in equipment, personnel, tools, training, hiring, recruiting. Everything we do with the general fund budget, we do with public safety tax. Can you imagine if 197 of my personnel, just under 30%, were cut because we didn't have this? What would I have to cut? I can't cut the jail. We need a place for prisoners. I can't let the criminals flee to Florida. I always go to Florida for some reason. I don't know why. Go to Florida and evade justice. That doesn't serve our victims. Civil process, we have to continue that to serve protection orders to protect those against domestic violence. We have to continue that. We have to respond to calls for service, domestic violence in progress, burglary, theft, recovered stolen vehicles. What do I sacrifice? What do I give up? This is crucial to the operation. This is crucial to the safety and security of El Paso County. And I'm absolutely proud of what my staff has done with this funding and the use of it to improve public safety. We have some things coming up for this year. That'll be for next year's presentation in the 2025 PST, where you all be invited, where we have, I call it IBOC, Intelligence-Based Operations Center, the Dispatch Center, that's new this year. This is all out of 25 PST funding. We are improving and increasing services to El Paso County. I am very, very proud. I can't wait to get you all across the street and see what we've done. We've updated our conference room to be an emergency operations center, which we've never had before. We have to go to ESD. Well, what if something happens downtown? We now have an emergency operations center right across the street, which feeds information, receives information from the intelligence center, real live streaming. It's amazing. I can't wait to invite you over there and see what we've done. Commissioners, thank you. Any questions for me?
Questions from commissioners or comments? Commissioner Applegate?
Yeah, so you said 197 employees are currently, their salaries are being paid for by the public safety tax. About what percentage of that is your workforce?
It's around 30, just under 30%.
About 30, okay. And then what was the projection again for time for the substation to be done?
About a year from now.
About a year from now?
Fall of 26.
Fall of 26, okay. Thank you.
Vice Chair Williams?
Yes, I may have some boring questions of which you can phone a friend or we can ask Nikki since she's here. So how much do we think the PSST is bringing in this year? So far, if we have a year-to-date estimate, I know that sales taxes have been kind of rocky for our municipalities, but we've been pretty good with our estimates.
I can absolutely speak to that. I follow that closely. As you know, some local agencies here nearby us are struggling with their budgets. Yes, we have seen a dip in public safety tax based on reduced spending. I believe we're going to be about $1 million under what we projected. Where's Nikki? $1 million under? But what I can say is we don't have furloughs. I don't have any furloughs planned for next year. Nobody's being laid off. I will continue the overhiring in the deputy sheriff position. We are fully hired in dispatch. We are poised for an emergency here in El Paso County, and I will maintain that staffing. Ms. Nikki?
Good morning, Commissioners. Nikki Simmons, Chief Financial Officer. For our public safety tax for 2025, we had budgeted to bring in just shy of $40 million, so $39.8 million. The projection right now is to come in just over $1 million short of that. That being said, we are basically flat in our sales tax collections for the year. So we haven't seen a dip from last year. We're just not hitting those increased projections, but our tax continues to come in strong compared to other areas in the state and flat to last year. And then for next year, we'll be presenting the budget a week from today, but are anticipated to continue to be able to cover all the expenditures for public safety with that.
Okay, that
Thank
helps.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Nikki.
Commissioner Weisel.
Thank you, Sheriff. I was able to meet Liz back in January, and it was a very pleasant and encouraging sign what direction you were going. And you're right, I appreciate you focusing on that, and especially for District 3, where we've got the huge concerns with the WUI. And just for those, we've been on a jail tour, had a ride along, and I mean, your deputies did a fabulous job. And it was great just being able to ride with them, ask questions, and just, really get their opinions. And as you've said, that they're not here for the money, but you do pay them fairly well, but they really enjoy working for the Sheriff's Department. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson.
Good morning. Thank you for explaining the overhiring and how you're managing your budget. There's definitely strategy in knowing you're going to have turnover and then having to backfill that. And so I appreciate that forward thinking. And I know when I served as the treasurer in the school district, we did similar where we would, and I'm not giving this as advice to you, and Nikki, you can definitely chime in later if this is bad guidance, but we would intentionally sort of over budget by 1% to 2% because we knew that we would not be able to fully hire all of the positions that we actually wanted. And so we would have fund balance building because you were budgeting for salaries, benefits that you just weren't delivering on. And so then you have one-time money and you can't hire using one-time dollars. So I'm glad that you are sort of anticipating those needs and have found a way to just fulfill your workforce duties that are truly needed. I'm curious on the training. It was slide 4, where it's a little over $1 million in public safety tax. Is that training going towards those new staff members going through the academy, or is that additional training?
Some of it is new deputies and a lot of additional training. We have to maintain certifications like school resource officers, as you probably know, Commissioner, and you, Madam Chair. They have to have certifications. My tactical teams have to have training and certifications. What we do, we have to maintain proficiencies and learn new tactics that are ever evolving to keep our community safe. So I want to make sure that we not only have the numbers of staffing, but they are well trained and equipped to provide those services so everyone remains safe, not only my staff, but the citizens as well. So it's a combination of ongoing training, certifications, new training, arrest control, firearms, everything that my deputies are responsible for.
Okay, so then expenses for the academy are coming more out of your general fund dollars, mostly.
No, those will be coming, the new hires are coming from public safety tax.
Oh,
Not
okay.
all of that training budget, it would be a lot higher more than 1.2 if we were doing that. But a big chunk of it is coming out of the public safety tax.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and that's good to think about as we're going for this ballot initiative in the future, just communicating to the public the need for these dollars to help train in the new workforce. And that's really important. I think this question maybe is more for our staff. I have been looking for the actual ballot question language just for my own familiarity, and I'm having a hard time finding it. So if you guys at some time could email that to me or tell me where on the website it would be located. I'm not readily finding it when I do a search. So
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
thank you.
We did have a memo on that earlier this year, if I can find it, but we can get someone to send it to you. Because the ballot language is the language from when we ran it. Was it 2018 when we ran it the last time? Okay.
Well, Sheriff, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come here and share all of this information with us and the public. I do have a question that's a bit loaded here, but oftentimes citizens do not realize, much of our community does not realize that you patrol the unincorporated areas, but there is still a huge impact in what you are doing for all of El Paso County, particularly in the management of the jail, which is no small task. But could you just share with us roughly at any given time what the number of or the percentage of individuals that are coming into the jail, what percentage of those are not brought in by your deputies, but are brought in by other agencies like CSPD?
I do keep track of a lot of statistics in the jail, including homeless, 25 to 26% of the population in the jail, which is roughly 1,275 average. 25% are homeless. And I sit on a board where I'm trying to address that issue there. Around 58%, sometimes 60% of the people incarcerated in the jail are from the city of Colorado Springs. Rest being, we have federal agencies like the U.S. Marshal, military installations, and we have Fountain, Manitou, Monument, those smaller jurisdictions who do have prisoners, and of course, us, El Paso County. And I'm very confident each commissioner follows us on all the social networks, EPC, Sheriff. And I encourage the community as we put all of our press releases, and it was my priority to highlight the great work the men and women do in my office. That's something we struggled with in the past, and people were not made aware of what we do. I absolutely believe in transparency. You hear that all the time. Whether it's stolen vehicles we recover, whether it's an award, or accreditation my staff and office have received, or it's prisoners we've handed over to ICE, it is out there. I am completely transparent. It's not always the good stuff. Here, we made this arrest, we made that arrest. Sometimes it's bad, like an in-custody death. I will put it out there. And I encourage the community to look at that because we are not hiding anything. I wished I had a lot more time to talk about the great things that my office is doing. Dispatch Center was recently accredited nationally for their services. We received a national award from the NCCHC, National Correctional Healthcare Association, something like that. I got the words mixed up. But we got Program of the Year, National Program of the Year for our one of our mental health programs inside the jail. That is it's called Trust Therapeutic Response. What we do is we have somebody in crisis. The old way of doing it was you go in there and open a cell, use force, people get hurt, restrain the person. Now we approach it more responsibly, similar to what we do in the community with Behavioral Health Connect, Beacon, where a clinician responds with a deputy. We're doing the same thing in the jail. And the Commission on Healthcare recognized the importance of that and awarded us Program of the Year and are going to highlight us at their national convention and help spread that word throughout the United States to get other jurisdictions and other jails around the country to implement that program. It reduces the use of force, it reduces injury. We go and we approach that person with the clinician, de-escalate, and we handle it at the lowest level possible in reducing force in our jail. Very proud of the work that my people are doing. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. I know that the improvements in the jail have been tremendous. And I think we all very much appreciate your attentiveness to that. But I do want to make sure the public understands that piece, which again, everyone can kind of think, oh, the sheriff is in those unincorporated areas, but what you provide to the entirety of our county is significant. And that's why this, the use of these public safety tax dollars is so important, is that it truly does impact everyone. And without that, our community as a whole would suffer. So I really appreciate that, appreciate all the work that you're doing, appreciate the transparency and being here today in sharing this, and just truly helping our community to understand. And I just want to kind of add, because for those who may be watching online, I think previous county commissions wanted to ensure that public safety always remained a priority. I think most people are familiar with governments taking their pet projects off the top, or diverting and not doing a great job of prioritizing where dollars are actually going to support those core government functions. And utilizing this public safety tax means that these dollars can't be diverted. They're always going to be utilized for public safety. And I'm very supportive of when we make decisions that allow the taxpayers to know that their dollars are not going to be diverted to other less important projects. They're going to be spent on one of the most important functions of government, which is public safety. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing that. I think we look forward to hearing more about the exciting things that you are continuing to do over at the Sheriff's Office.
Madam Chair, if I may. one
Of
more
course.
thing. This goes to your statement that El Paso County serves the entire county, including the municipalities in Colorado Springs. So last week, the media covered an operation in an apartment building where a young girl was rescued. She was being held by her father. That was on the media. It was a Colorado Springs police case. However, the tactical team that stood out there all day with patience pulled that young girl out of the window and apprehended the suspect was El Paso County Sheriff's Office SWAT team. We work hand in hand with our partners, and we have a great working relationship. But that may have been a CSPD case, but that was our tactical team out there that spent all day with a lot of patience and made sure everyone was safe. I don't know if you saw it. Oh, I know you didn't see it because of the camera, but there's a part in there when the little girl's coming out and there's a stranger holding her and she smacks my SWAT member on the face. I thought it was adorable. But my team's also keeping Colorado Springs safe, to your point, Madam Chair.
Thank you for sharing that and for being here today. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Rouse.
Okay, I don't see any additional countywide elected officials in the audience. Just looking around, don't see anyone, and we don't have anyone online, so we will move to the commissioners' reports, beginning with Commissioner Wysong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We talked about last week of being Creek Week. And so I had the wonderful opportunity Saturday to work at the Bear Creek Dog Park, picking up a lot of dog poo. It filled a 5-gallon bucket. So that was my Saturday morning. Also attended the Urban Renewal Board on Wednesday. We attended the State of the City address by Mayor Mobilotti on Thursday, and happened to have, or were able to have lunch with the UCCS Chancellor on Friday. This week, we've got a Fountain Creek Watershed District Tour, 29th Annual UCCS Economic Forum, and Saturday will be the Bear Creek Nature Center cleanup. Again, all part of Creek Week, trying to keep our parks and waterways clean. Thank you.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yesterday, Commissioner Weissong and I were able to meet with our Colorado Springs utilities partners and just get an understanding of the direction they're wanting to go with ensuring security and diversity of infrastructure for our needs in our community, our energy needs. And that was really a valuable conversation to help me understand and see how they're being forward thinking and wanting to ensure our community is well taken care of and provided for and at cost effective means. Tomorrow, several of us will be attending the tour to just continue to get an understanding of this part of the infrastructure that is provided by Colorado Springs Utilities in our community. And then Thursday afternoon, I am speaking at the UCCCS. Let me start over. Too many C's. The UCCS Economic Forum. So still kind of working on my speech a little bit, but look forward to attending and hearing more about what's going on, just the data, looking into the data and learning about our economy over the past year and maybe how we can anticipate what's to come. And then I have an orientation on Friday for our Department of Human Services. So it's a pretty full week again, but look forward to meeting with all these different groups and continuing to learn, and I'm really enjoying the work.
Commissioner Applegate.
Yes, thank you. To echo what Commissioner Weissong had said, yes, so State of the City was Thursday. We get to hear our mayor speak. And Friday, we met with the UCCS chancellor. Saturday, I was over at Creek Week. I went over to the cleanup to Cruz Gulch, and I just really want to thank the volunteers. There was easily over 20 people there that morning. In fact, a gal was out walking her dog that morning and came back with a bucket and gloves and said, I want to help if I can. So that was really cool that we were able to get that area cleaned up. And Monday, I spoke, CDOT has a presentation. They bought a new automated crash attenuator truck. And so basically, there's going to be a truck they're going to run on road crews. It's going to be either controlled by the truck in front or the truck behind. And so when they're out there and you see the guy setting the cones, there won't be a driver in that truck. And so hopefully the idea is if something was ever happened and that truck was to get hit, prevent injuries, prevent deaths. And so they were really proud of it. They were really proud. They got something moving with a little bit of AI, a little bit of automation. So, and it was really cool to see that, just kind of in action. They were rolling it down the highway. We got to see a quick little demonstration. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Vice Chair Williams.
Yes, I don't have anything. I've been out the past week to help a family member who had surgery. So that's, I don't have anything to report on. Thank you.
And I will just mention that this is the kind of a catch-up week for me. The last week, the third week of the month is always incredibly packed with the schedule with public health and opioid council running almost directly into each other. We continue to have conversations about the budget at public health. I think generally speaking, we're hearing a lot of talk about budgets, whether it is hearing that the city is laying off and furloughing folks. I know I've heard several of the smaller municipalities that are struggling. So I want to take this opportunity to just, again, thank our entire team here and this board for being very thoughtful about how we have budgeted in the past several years and going into this year, and our CFO, who I see at the top up there. Great wisdom that has allowed for El Paso County to continue to provide services without disruption, and looking forward to a budget season that really is positive, while we are hearing so many of those things, including, a potential looming federal government shutdown. So lots of talk about budgets, and grateful to be here in El Paso County, where we have prioritized stability and those core services that has led to that stability. In addition to that, I'll just mention that I'll be participating in CCI, a couple of CCI meetings this week, which is our opportunity to weigh in on state level policy that impacts El Paso County. We are consistently dealing with mandates from the state that impact how we do business here. I don't think it's a huge surprise to anyone that we have a different way of doing things here in El Paso County, and we want to be able to continue to make choices that we believe are best for our residents and fight for that local control. We do believe that the best government is the one that is closest to the people to make those decisions, and so we're going to continue to fight for that local control and also for accountability for our state government who continues to overspend and is dealing with their own budget issues at this point. So with that, I believe we are on to item 7.
Item number 7 is community service organization reports, and there are none.
Item 8.
Item number 8 is public comment on items not scheduled on the agenda. And Madam Chair, I'm aware of several people in the audience that would like to speak today.
Okay, if you are here to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, now is your opportunity. Please come down. We do ask that you sign in, and also as you begin your comments, to state your name on the record. As a reminder, you will have 3 minutes, and I ask you to do your best to adhere to that time limit.
Got a question for the board. Does each person only get 3 minutes, or is it 3 minutes per
Yeah, each,
agenda item?
nope, each.
Because we have the
per-
same agenda item, so.
Yeah, we were, unfortunately,
Each-
I brought 2 neighbors with me, and I was misinformed that we would be able to pool our minutes. So finding out that that's not the case this morning, we decided, I have my comments, discussions printed out. So we're going to,
Yes, sir.
split it up in
Each
less
person
individual sections.
is entitled to 3 minutes, however you want to spend that.
Okay. in total, I'll need about just slightly over 7 minutes. And Ms. Williams, best wishes for your family situation. Hope that works out for the best. So we'll start with, my name's Ken Fenk, and I just signed in. Jason is my neighbor. We'll start with the comments that I prepared for him, and then I'll finish up.
Do you have those handouts? Okay.
Can we restart this, please? We're going to need every second.
Okay, ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Kniper. This morning, I'd like you to hear our considerations on rehearing the Antlers Ridge rezoning from A35 to RR 2.5. We'll be giving you some handouts to reference as we talk, because we want to show you visually what we're talking about on some of these things. So hopefully you have that stuff. All right. We ask that you lay out like the 3 pages that you have, provided with the 8.5 by 11 map on your left and the larger 11:17 map on the right, and the calculation spreadsheet in the middle, and that will help kind of guide our discussion here. First area of discussion is focused on the actual guidelines found in the El Paso County Land User Master Plan, as well as the Black Forest Vision Statement 2020 that is integrated into the master plan. And directly from page 20 of that master plan, the areas of change map identifies this property, Antlers Range, and I refer to as Air Ranch as we know it, as falling under the minimal change undeveloped category. Key wording there is minimal change undeveloped. It later defines this exact geographic area with the character of these areas is defined by a lack of development and a presence of significant natural areas. And these areas will experience some redevelopment of select underutilized or vacant sites adjacent to other built-out sites, but not such redevelopment will be limited in scale so as not to alter the essential character. And so the key wording there is not to alter the essential character. And continuing on, it also specifies that new development may also occur in these areas on previously undeveloped land. But overall, there will be no change to the prioritized rural and natural environments. Keywords, overall, there'll be no change to the rural environments. And rephrasing where the Falcon community is later mentioned by name, Falcon has developed its own unique character. New suburban residential development will act as a buffer between urban and South Enlarged North lot to the north. Keywords act as a buffer. Now, with those key concepts and keywords, along with the clear lead direction in the master plan, I ask you to rethink these once again. Minimum change, overall no change to the rural environments, and redevelopment is limited in that scale. Can I go over I only got about another 30 seconds or so.
I'm going to ask you to adhere to the time limit, so maybe you can ask someone else to.
Okay, sorry about
Started the
that.
clock before we started. Okay, I'd like to folks, my name's Ken Fink. Good morning, commissioners, and thanks for hearing this. I'd like to start my time. It's going to be very fast. The first map to your left, you all have the documents? They're handed out? All right, the first map to your left is a summary of lots directly adjacent to the ranch property. That is, they share a common lot line. There's a total of only 28 properties that are directly adjacent to the ranch property. 10 of these parcels are 2.5 acres or less, and 18 of them are larger, with the largest being over 40 acres. I ask that you take note of the relatively small number of 2.5 acre properties primarily to the south. That's the bottom of the map. And the larger properties transition to the north. The actual numbers indicate 35.7% are up to 2.5 acres in size or smaller, and nearly 2/3 of them, 64.3%, are large lots being defined as larger than 2.5 acres. I'd like to note that the two tiny unbuildable parcels of 0.54 and 1.54 are included in these numbers, but they're significantly irrelevant. But I didn't want to create the impression that I was just handpicking data to influence the numbers. If this development is completed, 64% of large lot properties drops to 15.2%. This can in no way be defined from what is outlined in the master plan as a transition. Transition from smaller to larger is defined. No, this is not a transition, it's a saturation. Optionally, I'd like you to consider drawing 84 dots in the area on the map that represents the area of development. Density issue becomes quite apparent if you do that. 84 dots in that open spot. An even better defining measurement of this area is not by the quantity of lots, but rather the acreage. Referencing the map to your left, there's a total of 304.7 acres of directly adjacent property, of which 92.6% are larger than 2.5 acres. 22.08 acres of land, or 7.2%, is 2.5 acres or less. This is even more dramatic than the previous stats of the individual lots, and that the acreage is taken into consideration. This detail alone would identify the characteristics, which is outlined in the plan, of the area's large lot. Certainly, 2.5 acre parcels are not dominant in this area. Now, single adjacent lot calculations could be considered as subjective. So I collected additional information, and the larger map you have on the right is 2 adjacent lots. The total acreage making up these lots is 630 acres. It accounts for 87.9% of the acreage around that area. If this development were to go into effect, that number drops to 12.1%. This just doesn't make sense as far as character, as far as the environment. It doesn't fit the cohesiveness of this area. I'm going to be running out of time. So the why and the what I mentioned in the beginning of this, I hope is clear. This is not keeping with the El Paso County Master Plan, in particular around transition. Keeping the what is the decision should be reconsidered based on the clear and convincing data and the why. I ask respectfully that someone submit a re-look at this. There was some unfortunate instance. We weren't able to speak on this earlier. Be happy to go into detail if necessary, but we respectfully ask that someone perhaps revisit this with this additional information that was provided, that was not provided before.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there anyone else here today who'd like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, I see no one in the room, and we have no one online. No, sir, thank you. We will move to item 9.
Item number 9 is department and committee reports, non-action items, and there are none.
Item 10.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Item number 10 is the addendum, and there is no addendum today.
Item 11.
Item 11 is the executive session, and there is no request for executive session.
Okay, with that, we've come to the end of this agenda. This meeting is adjourned.